So this journey began on 10th October at 10 o'clock in the morning in 1997. So it's 10-10-10. 10 o'clock in the morning, 10th of the month, and October being the 10th month of the year. I was an accountant, a professional accountant with 3 degrees. I was a CGA, a chartered financial planner, and an SCCA from England. And I was consulting a client in my office, a client who had won a lottery of $15 million, 649 lottery. And I was consulting with him when at the stroke of 10 o'clock, I had a phone call. And the phone call went like this. It was from a chairperson of the Focus Humanitarian Agency. His name was Firoz Rasool, somebody I'd worked with in my community. And he phoned me and said, Azim, we need your help. I said, what's up, Firoz? He says, we want you to go to Karachi for 4 to 6 weeks to help set up a budget for the Afghan refugees. And the phone went dead. Because I'm thinking, no way, Firoz. I've just finished 4 years of being a chairperson of the social welfare board in my community. I've been putting 25 hours a week for 4 years on a voluntary capacity. I finished my 4 years on July 11th. On July 12th, I went to Victoria. I was the chairperson of a youth board for 40 days, putting 15 hours a day on a voluntary capacity. I've just come back. Now I tell my wife I'm going to Karachi for 4 to 6 weeks. My wife will say, yeah, go, but don't bother coming back. So Firoz is saying, Azim, are you still there? I said, yes, I'm here. I said, can I call you back? I had to ask my wife about this. He says, okay, call me back this afternoon. It's very important. So I put the phone down. I finished my interview with this client who had won the lottery. And I phoned my wife. I said, honey, do you want to go for coffee? My wife is wondering, weekday and coffee, what's the matter? Anyway, she shows up. Now, I'm sitting down with her, and I'm dilling and dallying because I don't know how to ask her. I knew the answer is no. I didn't have a problem with that. But I had to ask her so I don't feel guilty. But even to ask her, how do I ask her? So I'm fiddling around and dilling and dallying. She's wondering, what's this coffee meeting about? Anyway, eventually I pluck up my courage, and I tell her, look, Firoz had called. She says, I knew there's going to be something because Firoz always calls me when he needs me help for some voluntary work. He says, I knew there's something. Now, I was going to continue to tell her that, look, I know the answer is no, but before I could get there, the moment I mentioned to her what the phone call was about, she said, go. You must go. I was pleasantly surprised, very surprised. You see, my wife is born in Mumbai. She's seen poverty all her life. She said, Azim, you'll be good at it. You're passionate about this kind of causes, and you'll do a good service, and you cannot say no. So I was on the plane on October 19th, going to Karachi. Now, my passport had expired, so I had to go on a red-eye flight to Toronto, to Ottawa, to get my passport done. So the colleague I was working with told me that when the time you come to Karachi, you probably won't have slept 4 nights. And you arrive very early in the morning, so go to sleep, because we have a very important meeting in the evening. So I arrived very early morning in Karachi after 4 days of not sleeping. And I have a habit, when I go to the hotel, I can't sleep. I took all my clothes out, I organized them nicely, took a nice shower, and then I went to sleep. The moment I go into my bed, the phone is ringing. So my colleague says, come right now upstairs to 3517 room. So I put the phone down, I go and see him. And he tells me about what our task is about. And I was so stirred that I couldn't sleep the next night, even though I hadn't slept 4 nights. A lot of things happened while I was there, but there was one thing that happened that changed my life. But before I share that story with you, I want to share with you the first principle here. The first principle here is the power of giving. The phone call that I got, and I said yes with the blessing of my wife, was a yes to giving. And giving starts the ball rolling. The more you give, the more you have. The more you give, the more you create. The more you give, the more you innovate. The more you give, the more you find. The more you give, the more you receive. If you have closed fists, can you receive if I give you something? But if you open your fist and give, you can also receive. The more in the flow of giving you are, the more giving flows through you. The more in the flow of abundance you are, abundance flows through you. A cow which stops giving milk can't get more milk. A sheep which stops giving wool can't get more wool. A tree which is the fruit and nobody takes it, it falls down and rots. A river which stops flowing stagnates and dies. When you stop giving, you stop living. So the power of giving is instantaneous. The moment you have a good thought, suddenly you feel good. If I asked you right now for 30 seconds just to have a good thought for somebody you care about, could be your daughter, could be your son, could be your spouse, could be your grandma, a mother, just for 30 seconds, just have an unconditional good thought, put this picture of the person in front of you and send good thoughts. Just try it, see how you feel. How do you feel? Look around, look around. Just look around people's faces. What do you see? What do you see? Everybody's smiling, right? Instantaneous. You had a good thought, suddenly you feel good. If I'd asked you to think of your enemy or somebody who's hurt you, you'd be so inhibited. Yeah? So the power of giving is instantaneous. The power of giving is continuous. Because as you keep giving, the more in the flow of giving you are, the more giving flows through you. The more in the flow of abundance you are, abundance flows through you. And the power of giving is eternal. Because when you die, you don't take what you have, but you take what you give. 100 years from now, it won't matter how big your house was. It won't matter what car you drove. It won't matter how much money you have in your bank. But the world will be a different place if you were important in the life of a child. So the work you're doing is making that difference. And that giving is going to be for you all the time. Yeah? You know, one thing I found out when I was talking to some of the staff, they mentioned the conflict between social development and business model. They saw an inherent conflict in these two. You know, in my work, I realized that it need not be a conflict. You know, I use the term corporate Sufi, which Rod referred to earlier. And what I mean by it's an uncommon marriage. When you think of corporate, you think of money, success, power, material abundance. When you think of a Sufi, and I use the word Sufi as a metaphor to imply looking at the essence, not the form, being grounded in principles, values, ethics, believing in the power of giving, and wanting spiritual abundance. And those of you who are familiar with the work of Rumi, who is a poet, you know, you will find out that Sufis are very much laid back. They're very much in the spirit. They're very much in the meditation mode. So when you think of a corporate and a Sufi, you think of two worlds apart. But I believe that a corporate person can learn from a Sufi because corporate person is too materialistic, and a Sufi can learn from a corporate person because Sufi is too spiritualistic. I mean, the best way to help a poor person is not to become one of them. You have to be successful so you can make a difference. So you can integrate these two. So when you combine these two, you get a corporate Sufi, somebody who is efficient, goal-oriented, productive, heart-centered, principle-centered, balanced individual who wants both material abundance and spiritual abundance. What's wrong with that? You can sustain your success. You can give more. So to me, we can integrate these two. And guess what? When you do that, it helps you in your personal life. Because here in this room, we have people who are family members, who are parents, who have their own struggle, financial, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual. So if we can apply these principles in our own life, we can also have a better life for ourselves. We can fuel and inspire our own personal and professional life. So the principles we are talking about can be mutually beneficial. And I think there is an integration there. And it is a very powerful integration. Because when I look at this group, I look at you more as the Sufi, the one who gives and makes a difference. You know, forgets self for the benefit of others, which is fantastic. But let's not forget the business model because that allows us to do more, to sustain our success even deeper.